My name is Jason. I'm 41 years old. I married Lisa when I was 33, a woman I believed would be my partner through every storm. She had two children, Michael, who was 10 then, and Chloe, only 8. Their biological father, Dan, was a ghost that drifted in and out of their lives. He never carried the weight of fatherhood. He only wore its costume on holidays and birthdays. He'd show up in a pressed shirt, bring along a flashy toy or two, smile for pictures, then vanish again as quickly as he arrived. Lisa, for her part, was drowning in exhaustion. She worked 2 jobs, secretary by day, waitress by night, and I could see her cracking beneath the pressure. The kids were young, demanding, and resentful of their father's absence in ways they couldn't fully express. That left me. I started small, helping Michael with his math homework, reading with Chloe before bed. But small turned into everything. I became the one who remembered permission slips, who made sure gym clothes were washed, who stood at the pharmacy counter picking up antibiotics at midnight. I was the one who held their hands at dentist visits, who clapped from the bleachers at every soccer game. I was the one Chloe cried to when her best friend betrayed her in middle school, and the one who taught Michael how to shave when his first whiskers showed. 2 years into this rhythm, I made the decision that felt both terrifying and inevitable. I adopted them. I gave them my last name. I wanted them to know, not just in practice, but in truth, that I wasn't a placeholder. I was their father. On the day the papers were signed, Chloe threw her arms around me and whispered, "Now you're mine forever." Michael grinned and called me Dad in front of the judge. That word lit something in me I didn't know I'd been starved for. We moved soon after into a house in the suburbs of Chicago. It wasn't just a house, it was a promise. A 2-story with a wide yard, big enough for a dog we eventually adopted, and space for each child to have their own room painted in whatever color they wanted. Michael chose dark blue. Chloe wanted lavender. I spent nights assembling furniture, hanging posters, and building the kind of life I thought every child deserved. Those years felt golden. We went on vacations. Florida was a favorite, with its humid air and endless beaches. Michael would run headfirst into the waves, and Chloe collected seashells with a seriousness that made her look older than she was. Every birthday, I went all out. Cakes, decorations, parties that left the house covered in glitter and laughter. I bought them camp registrations, music lessons, college prep classes before they even hit high school. I wasn't just a provider, I was present. I sat through their endless stories, their tears, their silences. I even swallowed awkward moments for the sake of family harmony. Like when Lisa's relatives made snide comments at Thanksgiving, hinting that I was trying too hard to replace Dan. Or when Chloe's teacher called me Mr. Stepdad at a parent-teacher conference and Chloe giggled instead of correcting her. I let it slide because overall things felt strong. Michael called me Dad without hesitation. He once wrote in an essay that his father was the man who shows up every day, not the one who only sends texts. Chloe was softer, but she left me notes on Father's Day and birthday cards that said I was the best father in the world. I kept every single one of those cards in a drawer, believing they were proof. Proof that I had built something unshakable. Proof that love had conquered the absence of blood. There were awkward bumps, of course, but I smoothed them over. Like the time Dan forgot to pick them up for Christmas, leaving me and Lisa scrambling to calm their tears while wrapping last-minute gifts so they wouldn't feel abandoned. Or when Chloe told me shyly that her classmates asked why she had 2 dads and if I was her fake one. I hugged her and told her no, I was her real dad, because I was the one there every single day. Looking back, I realized those moments were warning signs. But at the time, I saw them as challenges we'd already overcome. I thought the bond we had built was unbreakable. I thought sacrifice, patience, and unconditional presence would be enough. I truly believed we were a family, not patched together, not temporary, not fragile, a real family. One forged through years of my labor, my money, my time, and above all, my heart. I thought I had secured my place forever. Dan came back into town when Michael was 17 and Chloe was 15. It was like a storm blowing through the front door of the life I had carefully built, scattering everything in its path. He had been gone for years, the occasional text, a phone call when guilt pricked his conscience, a Christmas gift delivered late. And yet, when he moved into a shabby apartment on the other side of Chicago, suddenly the kids looked at him as if he were some long-lost hero returning from war. He didn't return as a man humbled by absence. He came back loud, proud, and armed with money he hadn't earned. A big screen TV in his living room, new sneakers for Michael, jewelry for Chloe. He had no responsibilities, no bills, no braces to pay off, no endless nights spent at emergency rooms. He was the weekend magician, pulling fun out of a hat. At first I tried to swallow it. I told myself it was natural. They'd missed him. And of course, they wanted his attention. But then the comparisons started. Our real dad doesn't make us follow a curfew. Dad says your rules are too strict. Dan said you don't know how to have fun. Michael, once the boy who called me dad in front of his friends, now rolled his eyes when I told him to be home by 10. Chloe, who used to write me little notes, stopped saying goodnight altogether. Lisa told me to give them space. She said, they're teenagers, Jason. They'll come around. But every time she said it, her eyes looked away from mine. The first scandal came during Michael's 18th birthday. I had planned it weeks in advance, reserved a private room at his favorite steakhouse, ordered a cake, even invited his closest friends. Halfway through the dinner, Dan strolled in uninvited, carrying a brand new gaming console under his arm. The kids lit up as if he had descended from heaven. They ignored the cake, ignored the food I paid for, and spent the rest of the night huddled around Dan, laughing at his jokes. I sat there carving into cold steak, watching my place at the table vanish before my eyes. Later, when we drove home, Michael muttered, Dad would have let us go to the club after. You don't get it. That was the first time he openly called Dan Dad in front of me. The second scandal came at Chloe's school recital. I had been the one driving her to practices, the one paying for her lessons. I sat in the front row with flowers in my hands. But when she introduced us afterward to her friends, she said, This is my mom, Lisa, and that's my dad, Dan. When she gestured toward me, her voice flattened. That's my mom's husband. I laughed it off in the moment, but inside I felt something tear. From there, the disrespect grew teeth. Michael stopped answering me altogether. When I asked him to mow the lawn, he looked me dead in the eye and said, You're not my dad. You can't tell me what to do. Chloe began parroting Dan's criticisms. You're boring. You're too strict. No wonder Mom always looks tired. One night, Michael stormed into the kitchen after I told him to put his phone away at dinner. He slammed his chair back and shouted, You don't control me! You're not my father! His words hit the air like a weapon. Lisa froze, staring down at her plate. I waited for her to say something, to defend me, to remind him of the truth. She didn't. Instead, she whispered, Jason, maybe just let it go. That was when I realized I was standing alone. Dan began creeping further into our lives. He'd show up at the house unannounced, pulling up in his old pickup, honking the horn like a teenager. He'd call from the driveway and the kids would run out, leaving me sitting inside, staring at the meals I cooked. Lisa never stopped him. Sometimes she even went along. I caught her once smiling at him like she used to smile at me. Tired, relieved, grateful that someone else was making the kids happy, even if it wasn't real. The breaking point came during an argument in the living room. Michael and Chloe had just returned from a weekend with Dan, carrying shopping bags with clothes and sneakers I knew Dan couldn't afford without help from someone else. I asked where they got the money. Michael sneered. Our real dad takes care of us, not you. Chloe chimed in. You're nobody here, Jason. You don't get a say. Lisa sat right there on the couch, silent. Her silence was worse than the insults. In that moment, I realized the truth. Years of sacrifice meant nothing in their eyes. The homework sessions, the vacations, the hospital visits, the late-night drives, the adoption papers, erased with a few careless words. They had chosen Dan, the father who abandoned them, over me, the man who built their lives from the ground up. And worse, Lisa had chosen silence over me. I didn't explode. I didn't shout. Something colder settled into me. They wanted me to be nobody. Then maybe it was time I finally listened. That night, The night Michael and Chloe told me I was nobody in my own house, I didn't sleep. I sat in my office staring at the framed pictures on the wall. Photos of vacations, Christmas mornings, birthdays where I was smiling beside them. For the first time, those images looked like lies. By dawn, I had made my decision. I went into Michael's room first. His sneakers were piled in a corner, a brand new pair from Dan sitting on top. I opened a suitcase, folded his clothes, and set them inside. Every shirt, every pair of jeans, even the socks I had bought. I did the same in Chloe's room, carefully packing her dresses, her posters, her trinkets. I didn't throw things around in anger. No, I was calm. I wanted everything neat, undeniable. Lisa woke when she heard the zippers. "Jason, what are you doing?" I looked at her. "You heard them last night. They want their real father, so they're going to live with him." Her face went pale. "You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious." My voice was flat, cold. "They said I'm nobody here." "Fine. Then I'm stepping out of the role they spit on." By mid-morning, the kids stumbled out of their rooms, still groggy. When they saw their bags lined up by the door, confusion gave way to panic. Michael's voice cracked. "What is this?" "Your belongings," I said. "You're moving in with your real father. You told me I'm not your dad. You told me I have no say here. So now you'll live under the roof of the man you do recognize." Chloe shook her head. "No, you can't just—" I cut her off. "You both made it clear last night. I'm nobody. I'm not forcing myself into that role anymore." Michael tried to laugh it off, a nervous, hollow sound. "Come on, Jason. Don't be dramatic." "Dramatic?" I pulled out a thick folder from my desk and slapped it onto the counter. Receipts, invoices, bank statements, 8 years of proof. Over 300,000 poured into their lives. Braces, camps, vacations, medical bills, clothes, their entire existence. I shoved it toward Michael. "That's what dramatic looks like. That's what I've given while your real father was missing. But now, it's his turn." Lisa's voice broke. "Jason, please, they're just kids." I turned on her. "No, Lisa. Michael is 18, legally an adult. Chloe is nearly 16. Old enough to know what she's saying. And you. You sat in silence while they spat in my face. You let them disrespect me in my own home. That silence was your answer." Lisa's eyes filled with tears. "They didn't mean it." I stared at her until she looked away. They meant every word. By afternoon, I had called Dan. He tried to dodge the responsibility at first, stammering excuses. I didn't let him. "Your kids will be waiting outside. Pick them up tonight. Don't be late." When he finally pulled into the driveway in his dented pickup, Michael and Chloe's bravado crumbled. Chloe clung to the banister sobbing. Michael begged under his breath, "Don't do this. Please don't do this." I stood firm. I opened the front door, carried their bags out, and placed them directly into Dan's hands. Then I shoved the folder into his chest. Receipts, records, 8 years of sacrifice. "This is everything I've done. Now it's your turn." He blinked, taken aback. "Jason, I don't have the means." "Figure it out," I said. My voice was like stone. Michael's face twisted. "I didn't mean it. I was angry. Please." But I didn't waver. "You said I was nobody, and now you'll live as if I never existed." Lisa was sobbing by then, begging me to reconsider. "We can fix this, Jason, please." I shook my head. "No, I've carried this family for nearly a decade. I've sacrificed everything. And when the moment came to choose, you all chose him." I pointed at Dan. "So live with your choice." The kids left that night, stuffed into Dan's cramped one-bedroom apartment. The fallout was immediate. Within a month, Michael lost his health insurance. Chloe's extracurriculars vanished. No more camps, no more sports, no more weekends full of activities I had paid for. Dan's paycheck as a warehouse laborer couldn't stretch far. The kids went from abundance to survival. Michael took a job at a fast food chain, working late nights just to cover his phone bill. Chloe quit her sports teams, unable to afford uniforms or travel. 2 months in, they were evicted. Dan couldn't keep up with rent. They ended up in his mother's basement, 3 of them crammed into a damp, musty space with one flickering light bulb. Lisa tried to hold on, but she couldn't afford the mortgage without me. The bank notices piled up, the walls of our home closing in. Eventually, she filed for divorce and moved in with her sister, broken and penniless. And me? I felt a strange calm. For the first time in years, the house was quiet. No slammed doors, no eye rolls, no whispered insults. Just silence. But silence, I realized, could be sweeter than false love. For weeks after they left, the house felt alien. Empty rooms echoed with the weight of what used to be. Chloe's lavender walls stared back at me with posters half torn from the tape I hadn't bothered to restick. Michael's dark blue room was stripped bare, the faint outline of his shelves still visible on the paint where I had taken them down. The silence was heavy at first, pressing against me at night, reminding me of all the years I had given, all the laughter I had believed was real. But soon the silence became something else. It was peace. For the first time in years, I could hear myself think. No constant arguments, no mocking remarks, no slammed doors, no quiet betrayals, just air I could finally breathe. The letters started about a month later, handwritten, uneven, sometimes smudged with what looked like tears. Chloe's first note said, "I'm sorry, Jason. I didn't mean it. I was just trying to fit in with Dad. Please let me come home." Michael's letters came less often, but when they did, they were sharper, more desperate. "You were right. He can't take care of us. I should have respected you. Please, just one more chance." I read them all. Then I placed them, unopened again, in a drawer. I never wrote back. Lisa called sometimes too. Her voice was thinner than I remembered, stripped of the authority she once carried. "Jason, they regret it. They know they were wrong. Please, don't punish them like this." I answered the same every time. "They said I was nobody. I'm just honoring their truth." Her voice would crack. Sometimes she begged, sometimes she cursed me. Once she screamed, "You're heartless," into the phone before hanging up. But I knew better. Heartless men don't spend nearly a decade raising children who weren't theirs. Heartless men don't break themselves paying for braces, camps, and college prep. No, I wasn't heartless. I was finished. Meanwhile, reality devoured them. Dan's warehouse job didn't stretch far enough to cover even the basics. Michael, once full of swagger, now worked late shifts at a greasy fast food place, his hands reeking of fryer oil. He dropped out of his college prep courses, dreams of university fading into smoke. Chloe, the girl who used to twirl on soccer fields, quit all her sports. The uniforms, the travel fees, the club memberships, gone. When Dan's apartment fell into arrears, the landlord kicked them out. They ended up in his mother's basement, living on fold-out cots under a ceiling stained with water damage. Lisa tried to hold on to the house without me, but reality crushed her too. Mortgage notices stacked up until the bank finally claimed what I had once paid for. After the divorce, she moved in with her sister, taking nothing but shame with her. They had chosen their father, and with him, they inherited his failures. I built a new life in the ruins of the old one. I met Kelly, a woman with no children, no baggage trailing behind her like chains. She didn't measure me against anyone, didn't use me as a wallet, didn't stand in silence while I was disrespected. She valued me, not for what I could provide, but for who I was. For the first time in years, I felt like a man again, not a shadow in his own home. And yet, ghosts linger. Sometimes at the grocery store, I see them. Michael pushing a cart, his clothes worn, his face tired. Chloe beside him, pale, looking older than her years. They don't run up to me. They don't shout Dad anymore. Sometimes their eyes flick toward me, glassy, guilty. Sometimes they look away as if I'm not there at all. Once Chloe whispered, "Hi," as I passed. Her voice cracked like dry wood. I nodded but kept walking. She started crying quietly in the aisle. I didn't stop, because I remember that night in the living room when Michael looked me in the eyes and said, "You're not our dad." I remember Chloe introducing me as nothing more than my mom's husband. I remember Lisa sitting silent, refusing to defend me. They told me I was nobody, so I agreed. 8 years of my life, hundreds of thousands of dollars, every ounce of patience and love I could give. discarded in a single breath. They thought love was unconditional. They thought they could spit on it and still have it waiting for them. But love, real love, requires respect. Now, when I think back, I don't feel regret. I feel clarity. I gave them everything, and they chose the man who gave them nothing. And they learned in the harshest way possible what that choice meant. So I ask you, was I cruel for letting them live with the man they called their real dad? Or was I finally giving them exactly what they asked for? Because when your family tells you you're nobody, what would you do?